Good evening, everyone. My name is Kathleen Cannon, and it's my pleasure to serve as the Director of the Office of Parent and Family Engagement here at the College of the Holy Cross. I'm so grateful for so many of you for joining us this evening. Just so folks are aware, we are recording this evening's presentation so we can make it available to others later on. And I very much appreciate everyone's willingness to join us tonight and pull themselves away from the excitement of the Olympic ceremonies, as I know it's, at least personally for me and my household, is an exciting time. So again, thank you so much for joining us for this evening's session of From the Hill to You, Declaring a Major. I'm grateful for my colleagues who will introduce themselves in just a moment to be joining us this evening to share with you, as families of first-year students, some of the information regarding the process of a student deciding to declare a major. And I will say, and I'm sure my colleagues will reinforce this, that this is the start of that process for students. This is not at the start of the spring semester, the time in which they have to declare a major. But it is the time in which they can begin to declare a major. And so we feel it's important for you as family members to have a sense of what that process looks like for students and some of the things that we hope they're considering in that decision-making that decision-making process, and some of the people they're having conversations with. So in just a moment, I'm going to duck myself away to turn it over to my colleagues. We do appreciate the questions that came in advance, and our presenters had been able to incorporate many of those into their session tonight. If, as our presenters go through, you have additional questions, please make sure to see the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to be able to pose additional questions. If you're not seeing it initially, just click on what hopefully appears as a More button, and you should see a Q&A option. Again, that's the tool in which you can ask additional questions, and we will reserve all of those until the end of the presentation, where we'll pose as many of those as we can to our panelists this evening. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dean Tom Narita, who's the class dean, to introduce himself and our other panelists this evening. So I hope you enjoyed this evening's presentation.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Narita. I'm the class dean for the class of 2029. I'm very excited that you are joining us tonight. This is a very exciting and important time for your students. And so my colleagues and I are here and happy to share our experiences and to try to answer some or as many of your questions as we can during this time. I know a lot of your students have probably been waiting for a long time to get to this stage, maybe thinking this is the start of their college career, and now they get to make some decisions on their that affect them directly. But it's also an important time for, I think, for families to have some, conversations about their students' choices and how you can help. How you can help your student come to the best decision, or think about all the different possibilities and work that out. And so you being family members, loved ones are probably one of the people that your students will reach out to first. And so you also want to make sure that you get some of our thoughts as well, as so that you can help when you talk to your students about what they're thinking about and what are some of the possibilities. So I have with me some great colleagues with broad experience, and so hoping the three of us can go through various topics. We all have our expertise, and try to answer, like I said, as many of your questions as possible. And so I'd like to introduce you to Professor Bridget Franco and Professor Gavi Avila-Brandt.
Thanks very much, Tom. Welcome to the parents and families who are here tonight. I'll just take a couple minutes to introduce myself, and before we get to the Q&A. I am the director of the Montserrat program, which is the year-long seminar that all first-year Holy Cross students take. These are seminars that cover a wide range of topics, and the students are in a class typically with a professor who spends the entire academic year with this small cohort of about 15 to 17 students. And in terms of kind of where we are in the rhythm of the first year of college, while every student is different, typically February and March and moving into April brings with it challenges and also a lot of excitement as we move hopefully through winter quickly and into the spring. And so many of your students are probably experiencing some of those ups and downs that are very typical for the first year of college. Some of those ups are the excitement of coming back a second semester and feeling like you know where you are on campus, you know how to get to the places that you need to go. You're recognizing friends from the first semester, perhaps fitting in better with your roommate and having some tough conversations sometimes about what it means to live with somebody else if you're used to having your own space. Some students are experiencing the winter blues. With the weather that we've had, they've been tucked inside sometimes, and hopefully with again the move to spring, we'll have some opportunities to be outside more. But that brings its own challenges. As spring break comes up, and it's rather early this year for Holy Cross, the first week of March, some students are excited about perhaps traveling, while other students might be disappointed that they are not vacationing somewhere, and some comparing might be going on there. And then probably, most importantly, academically, they're starting to think about, do I declare a major? If I'm going to, what is that going to be? And how terrible is it if I'm not ready to make that really important decision, which is some of the things that we're going to talk about with you tonight. So I will pass it off to my colleague, Gabby, to introduce herself.
Hey everybody, I'm Professor Gabby Lebrun. I am a chemist by training and a faculty member in the chemistry department. I'm also here tonight as the health professions advisor of the college. And in that role, I advise students who are seeking to pursue careers in the health professions, whatever health profession that might be, anywhere from nursing and physician's associate to veterinarian, dental school, medical school, and everything in between. One of the things that I love most about this job is just how much I get to work with students, not just with first year students and as they continue their journeys throughout the college, but also with a lot of alumni. I routinely have calls with students who are coming in from the class of 2019, 2018, who are finding their way back to medicine or dental school. And seeing some of my students who I had in introductory chemistry is, again, one of the best parts about this job. So I welcome all of your questions about choosing a major, pursuing a health profession, and I'm excited to see where the evening takes us.
So I thought maybe we'd just start with just a kind of the big broad picture and some of the logistics. I think there was some questions about that. So as you may already know, or your students have told you, that the portal for declaring a major has opened. Now it's important to just think back that Holy Cross does not require, or does not allow students to declare a major back in September. And the reason for that is that we want our students to experience freshman year by exploring their classes. And so that's part of the reason that we've been holding off on opening this portal until now. Now, just because the portal is open does not, as Bridget mentioned, does not necessarily mean you must choose your major at this point, right? It's just that the opportunity is there for some students who are ready. And the portal will stay open until end of March. Now, if your student is still thinking about the possibilities, does not quite ready, there's no rush at this point, right? So the portal will open up again in the sophomore year, and that will give your students a chance to kind of experience their second semester, their spring semester, and think about the courses they've taken for the entire freshman year, to think about how might they, as a sophomore, possibly think about focusing their studies. So just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page, that your student can declare a major, but we are definitely not requiring your students to declare a major. And there's absolutely no loss if your student decides to wait until sophomore year. And actually, we probably hope that if your student is still in the discernment stage of trying to figure out something, that we want them to take the time, right? There is absolutely no rush in declaring a major at this point. Another thing I just want to also talk about is that declaring a major is relatively easy. There's no huge paperwork. It's just a couple of clicks of the button on the computer, and so once again, there are no like hurdles to declaring a major. Um, let's see. So maybe I'll pass it to Bridget about her experience with students who are discerning about their major or waiting as well.
Yes. Thanks so much, Tom. Yeah, I think that that's one of the joys of being in the Montserrat program. As somebody who's taught in the program and is directing it, I get to speak to so many students who are asking these big questions, and what a joy to have a year of their life, 4 years in total, where they are figuring this out and thinking about a future that they themselves are creating. So I like to remind myself as a parent, also as a college first year student, that it's important to remember that this is a 4-year journey, and that this first year is 25% of that journey. And in order to get wherever it is they're headed, it's really important to remind the students that we have that it's okay to take their time. It's okay to ask a lot of questions. In fact, we hope that that's what they're doing the first year. And one way that you as family and parents can help your child through this journey is to also be asking them questions rather than perhaps demanding answers, in the hopes that they will be curious. And some of the ways that they can be curious is to talk to other students who have walked this path before them. So find second year students, third year students, seniors in the dorms, in their other classes, in their extracurriculars, in their sport that they're doing, and ask them, how did you figure out what you wanted to major in? What other things are you doing besides just this particular major? Do you have a concentration? Do you have an extracurricular? Do you have a leadership opportunity? Those conversations can help students realize that most journeys are not linear. In fact, the best ones, in my opinion, are ones that zigzag and get you somewhere eventually, but the part of the process is to go on that walk. Other ways that students can start their discernment process is to take a visit to the Center for Career Development, who have many different advisors who can talk to them about different pathways that they might not even understand are open to them or are jobs that they could pursue. I would hope and I assume that most of your students are talking to their Montserrat professors, who, again, because they have this person for the entire year, they're usually a go-to mentor. But if they haven't had the chance to go and have that conversation with their Montserrat professor, that is a safe person who is excited to talk to them about that journey. They also have academic advisors who our job is to have those conversations with them. Another place to look for discernment is the chaplain's office. So we have a wonderful staff in the chaplain's office that facilitate retreats. Literally, one of them is called, I think, the discernment retreat. And then there are other types of affinity groups that they have and gather together and have these conversations so that our students know that they're doing this in community and not in isolation. I think that's important. And then lastly, one kind of concrete thing that you could help them think through is what kind of experiential learning, so getting outside this major is the track, and thinking more about, are there opportunities through summer research, through internships, through studying abroad or studying away, Maymesters? Are there community-based learning opportunities where they can get involved in the local Worcester community? Those are the types of high impact learning that are going to help an individual figure out what it is that they're passionate about and where they can make a difference. And also they're going to see that there are career pathways that they probably weren't even aware of. Because typically students come into college with this mindset that you have, three options, X, Y, and Z, and that's it. And we all know that that's not true. So helping them find those pathways through examples, I think can be very helpful. I'll pause there and pass it on to Gabby.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So one of the questions that I get a lot from first year students as the health professions advisor is how can I get to medical school tomorrow, right? And so there's definitely this sense of rushing and wanting to get there and wanting to start. And so I want to reiterate what Bridget said before, right? They're on a journey. They're on a journey to whatever path they are going to pursue, if that's medical school, if that's nursing school, if that's as a speech pathologist, whatever health professions they pursue, that is definitely a journey. And so along that journey, yes, they have to do academics. But again, like Bridget said, they also have to build strong foundations in experiential learning. And so many times they want to do this right away, and it's just not possible, right? And so in that first semester, in that second semester, your goal is to start kind of understanding what your values are, start exploring some classes, some of the academics that might be required for a health professions program post-graduation. And I would say really start developing relationships with people on campus, right? Getting engaged with the community either through your team, if you're an athlete, through some kind of extracurricular activity, stopping by the chaplain's office building when they have their cookie Wednesdays or their bagel Wednesdays. Whatever it is that excites your child, that's really where they should be spending some of their time, right? Really pursuing those interests and trying to understand who they are. Once they kind of get to know the campus and start to feel at home, it's really in that second year when they can start to more substantially chip away at academics or experiential learning. But for right now, it really is about understanding who you are as an individual, understanding what your values are, what your priorities are, how to study, how to learn, how to deal with a roommate, right? All of these things are really more important than anything else because they set that foundation, they set the stage, and they allow you to, again, in your second year and your third year, to now really chip away substantially at requirements or experiential learning activities and the like. I will also say one thing that I like to put in people's ears when they come to campus is not to forget the importance of those campus relationships, right? One of my tasks as a health professions advisor is to evaluate students' readiness for medical school, for dental school, et cetera. And one of the ways that we do that, along with the same way that medical or dental school do, is via letters of recommendation. So I do like to put it in all of my first year students' ears that letters of recommendation are very important and they come from sustained interactions, right? And it starts whenever you want it to start, but starting from your first year, starting to develop those relationships is huge. I cannot tell you how many Montserrat professors from a student's first year write letters of recommendation for medical school, for dental school, so many, because that's the professor that they really took the time to get to know. That's the professor that had them for 2 whole semesters, right? That's the professor that saw this incredible growth over that first year. So really engaging with the people who are around you is very, very important at this stage. All right, so with that, I'll turn it back to you, Tom.
I just wanted to echo what Bridget and Gabby said. I think both said, that it's when students are really passionate or excited about a topic, that's the field that they are going to excel in. And I'm sure you as a parent and I myself as a parent, that's what we want from our children is to be passionate, excited, and therefore they really learn and so that's and so one thing that we hope your child doesn't feel is that they have to go into a certain major because that is what will lead them to a job that they've been thinking about since they were 10 or something like that. Because even to be a pre-health or medical doctor, it does not necessarily mean, I think Gabby will probably say this, that you do not have to be a chemistry major, right? That's not the only path. To be a to be a business leader does not mean you must be an economics major, right? There are many, many paths to get there. And what we want our students to do is to excel in whatever that excites them the most. And whatever it is that they're going to dig deep into because they are so passionate about it and they like the professors that they are talking to, and professors are telling them about new worlds that they haven't even thought about. And so I think that's so when we're talking to our students, we don't necessarily say, okay, this is the major you're going to be. It's more the question about, what classes have you taken that's been really fun for you, right? Which professors have really spoken to you? And if they say, I'm thinking about becoming a majoring something like this, question I might ask is, well, what are things that are drawing you to this major? What's not talking about what do you think this major will do for you as a career-wise. That's I think, rather than focusing on the present and asking, that it's, that this major that you're thinking about, what has led to that decision. And so I think that's something that you might consider when you're talking to your student about. I also want to add something that once again kind of logistics of the whole process. Changing, if once you declare a major does not mean you're locked into that major. You are welcome to change your major anytime. Once again, just a few clicks of the button on the computer and you can change your major. So once again, it's very flexible. There's no long-term commitment to anything. No one is going to see that you've been changing majors or thinking about something else. So just please let your students know that there's nothing that's locking them into anything long-term. I also just wanted to just touch on and I'll get Bridget and Gabby's opinion on this too. We already kind of talked about a little bit about ways to enhance your learning. So I know Bridget mentioned a little bit about like studying abroad or Maymester, and I know that has like foreign language requirements sometimes. And so I'm just curious what Bridget thinks about adding that kind of experience.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So my other hat is I'm in the Spanish department, and I very much encourage students if they have the opportunity to do some kind of study away, study abroad, whether that be a short-term Maymester, an entire semester, or even an entire year if possible. One of the things that is important to remember is the kind of number here that we're talking about. What I mean by that is that typically a Holy Cross student will take a total of 32 classes over the course of their 4 years. Of those 32 courses, the common requirements make up 12. And then a student would typically have a major and maybe a double major, which take between 10 to 14 courses, depending on what kind of a major you're interested in. So if the student is thinking at all about taking courses elsewhere, and what elsewhere I mean by studying abroad or studying away, it's actually helpful in that case to save some of those common requirements because they're easier to get abroad depending on where you go than taking all of your major courses abroad, for example. And also with STEM, typically Holy Cross, most colleges tend to ask their students to take STEM courses at the institution rather than in other places. So that is something to keep in mind. Most students will apply if they're interested in studying abroad or away next fall. So just as they're starting off their second year, those applications will be due in November. So that is something to be thinking about. And I know that, on the one hand, we're saying, you don't have to declare right away and whatnot, but planning is important. And so while the student doesn't need to know necessarily today what they're going to major in, it is a good idea if they're thinking about studying abroad or studying away to have a sense of, okay, I can save a few of my common area requirements. And by the time I study abroad or away, I will know what my major is going to be, and I'll be working towards that. One thing that many students bring across my desk is a beautifully color-coded spreadsheet, which I love. If there's anything you want to encourage your student to do, it's do that. And all you have to say is that color-coded spreadsheet, and they will know exactly what you're talking about. And it's basically a grid of the next, 3 years, including this one, so 4 years total, of what they think they want to do and how the puzzle fits together. And that exercise can be something that can take away a little bit of that anxiety around, what am I doing? How am I going to do this? Because it helps them map out what they think they might want to do and if that's numerically possible. So, and I'm going to pass this to Gabby because I know with the pre-health and pre-professional programs, they have their grid set up from day one because that is a program where you do need to make sure the puzzle pieces are all fitting together very closely. But for any student, regardless, even if they don't have a major, doing that exercise with them or letting them show you what they have in mind can be really illustrative of the fact that by the end of this first year, they're going to have done quite a lot. And it's good to celebrate that and to show them and have them show you what it is that they've done and accomplished. At the very least, they have done 8 courses that are counting towards those 12 common requirements, which is fantastic. Gabby, would you like to talk a little bit about that kind of planning that
Absolutely.
you do?
Yeah, I think that was great. I mean, I think it's a difference between rushing, right, and thoughtfulness. I like to tell my kids, we're in a rush, we're hurrying up to get somewhere. I don't say hurry up, or I try not to say hurry up. Rather, I say walk with a purpose, because then it at least focuses them right on the path ahead. And so I think you have to be thoughtful. I think you have to be purposeful. You absolutely do not have to declare a major right away. But as Bridget said, setting up that spreadsheet and understanding how the puzzle pieces fit is an excellent exercise. For health professions advising, it's really important that students meet with our office as soon as possible. We had a presence on campus at orientation where we had a lot of students. We met a lot of that first year class. We also had a large advising session in the Silos auditorium on campus for first year students, where we kind of laid the groundwork for health professions advising as a whole and encouraged them to meet with us. And we were very busy in the fall because so many of them signed up for advising appointments with us, which was excellent. You absolutely have to be thoughtful about what classes to take when and where for health professions advising. I like to tell students that health professions advising really is a journey, and where you are in your journey can be different and will often be very different from that of your peers, and that's totally okay. A lot of students, they say, oh, I got here late. Oh, I didn't start soon enough. Oh, all of the hedging. And I always tell them, you got here exactly when you were meant to get here, right? And so whenever you get to that point, that's when the journey begins. The big thing that I want to echo that Bridget said are your STEM classes. You want to take those at Holy Cross, especially for health professions programs. You don't want to use AP credits for those. You don't want to take them abroad, and you generally don't want to take them in the summer at other institutions. If there is some kind of extenuating circumstance, again, tell your child to reach out to us and we can sort through things with them. But getting started on those STEM classes, I like to say, by this semester, maybe you've started one. If you're ready, if not, by all means, in that second year is really when you have to start digging in. And I think this idea of, not being afraid is the biggest issue and one of the biggest hurdles that our students face and that they have to deal with. So, kind of approaching these courses with an open mind, with this feeling of I'm going to engage, I'm going to work with my faculty member, I'm going to attend classes. That will get you where you have to go. You don't have to hit the ground running, right? You can absolutely build to it, which is very, very important. I will also say you can major in anything as long as you complete the requirements for the health professions program that you're interested in doing. Come meet with one of our advisors and we will talk through what are the requirements for medical, for dental, for nursing programs, right? And we can talk about how the student can empower themselves to understand what their spreadsheet would look like, to do a little bit of planning, and then start chipping away at it. So they're going to want to meet with us, like I said, early and as often as possible. I already have, students who come to me regularly in that from that first year class, and it's wonderful because I'm already, working with them and getting to them to where they'd like to go. If they are unsure about what they want to major in, if they are unsure about what health professions they want to pursue, now is the time to just start doing some Googling, right? Doing some digging, some research, trying to talk to folks either in our office or outside, maybe shadowing somebody in the health professions, right? Following a doctor around, following a nurse, and really, again, working on that discernment so that when you get to the journey, when you get to start the journey, you arrive on time, and you arrive on time because you're ready to go and you know who you are, and you're ready to pursue your goals.
So just switching topics a little bit. As a class dean, I get an email anytime a student declares a major. And so since the portal did open, I have been getting emails from it's kind of automated emails saying student XYZ has declared ABC as their major. And so I can tell you right now, every day I get 2, 3, 4 emails, automated emails. So that means few students are declaring major every day. Now, I know some of the questions that's being asked is like, so what does that mean once they declare major? What changes? And quick answer is not a whole lot. Not a whole lot happened. Not this year. Your students are taking their 4 classes. Those courses will still continue. Only thing that they'll notice is that over the summer, once they declare major, they'll be given a new advisor. So currently, all first-year students I have a first-year advisor. Many of them are in the Montserrat program. So they're usually professors that they're seeing every day or every other day. But once they declare major in the fall, they'll be reassigned to a new professor in the department for their new major. So that's one thing they'll notice. Another thing is that if someone's asking, so are there any like benefits to declaring major right now? Not, like I said, not really, except possibly in certain departments. Certain departments get tremendous number of students, and so those departments have to kind of plan out how many classes they will have to teach for the sophomore students. And so departments like psychology or economics often would like to know who are the majors, and so they can plan ahead. And so if you are in those certain departments, not just, once again, maybe 2 or 3 departments total in the entire college, if you are declared in one of those departments, then you'll be allowed to register for the sophomore classes. But like I said, majority of the students don't, are a lot of students that are not in those departments. It really, once again, makes no difference because it will not affect their fall registration. All right. Let's see. One thing that someone is asking about are some of the common area requirements. So I know Bridget's kind of mentioned that a little bit about studying abroad. Once again, common area requirements are, something that all students have to take. And some departments will have their courses can count towards the common area, or some certain courses in their department can count as common areas. But so don't think of declaring a major as a way to take care of the common areas, because that's often not the case. And actually, we probably discourage students from trying to focus all their classes in one department. Actually, there are some rules against that, because once again, being a liberal arts college, we want our students to try to experience as many kinds of classes from many, many departments as possible. And so once again, it's not a good strategy to declare a major early just so that you can start knocking off some of the breadth requirements.
I'll jump in, Tom, because it looks like there's a question about the foreign language requirement, maybe tied to studying abroad. That is something that I would encourage students who are thinking at all going to a non-English speaking country or a program that has, a language requirement to get started on sooner rather than later. The language requirement is something that if the student has AP credit and a certain score on the AP language exam, you can earn credit towards one of the two semesters of language. So that's important for them to remember and to make sure that they've passed on that AP credit to the registrar to make sure it appears on their transcript. But that's definitely something that if they have any intention of doing a non-English language program, they would want to start that. Next year there's still plenty of time, but you want to obviously do that before you go abroad.
I will also jump in here because we're talking about timing, and I saw a question that asked about timing specifically for dental school. So I would strongly recommend that your child and our student come meet with our office. If you are thinking of pursuing medical or dental school, it is becoming increasingly common to take one, and really not only one, really we're looking at 2 years post-graduation before you actually enroll in your medical or dental program. So we call these bridge years because you're not just sitting around during these years. You're very busy. You're very busy bridging your undergraduate experience to that graduate program. If your student is, looking to go to dental school or medical school on an accelerated track and reduce the number of bridge years that they would like to take, they absolutely have to get started on that almost right away. I like to think it's about a 6-year plus journey to get to one of those programs. And so you can, start those 6 years almost whenever you want, right? But understand that is going to impact your timeline. It does take a full year to apply to those programs. So if you are looking to enter a medical or dental program directly in the September following your May graduation from Holy Cross, that means that you are applying to that program in June before your senior year. That means that your MCAT, your DAT, all of your entrance exams, as well as all of the prerequisite courses have to be done in a really compressed time frame of 2.5 to 3 years for you to really be ready. This is a very, very fast time frame. It is very rare for students to do this. In the past 5 years, we have only had one applicant actually get into medical school with 0 bridge years. So this applicant was actually able to apply in their junior year and get in. Again, in the past 5 years, we've only had that one student do it. And as the question in the Q&A said, there are a lot of requirements. It's not just the coursework. I think a few years ago, right, maybe 10, 15 years ago, really all you needed was to do well in your classes that were required for medical or dental, take your entrance exam, and off you went, right? Now these programs are requiring a significant amount of patient care experience. They want to know that you know what you're getting yourself into, that you know what it means to be a physician, that you have to lay your hands on people who are in very, very vulnerable situations and deal with them with grace and empathy to get them through whatever it is they're going, and then turn around and do that again with the person in the room next door, right? Without losing the quality. And that is a lot to ask of an individual. And so medical schools and dental schools are doing almost a lot of pre-screening to make sure that you have that experience built in before you actually enroll in the program. So the timeline for these programs is important. Bridge years are very, very common. And if your student wants to stick to a particular timeline, they're just going to have to come talk to us sooner rather than later.
Also, just adding on to what Gabby said, a lot of Holy Cross has a lot of opportunities for STEM students, for humanities students to um, enhance their learning while they're still here. One thing that I want to mention is the summer research fellowships that Holy Cross funds for its students, and um, this is for open to anyone. You do not have to have a certain major declared for that. You just need to find an advisor that's willing to work with you over the summer. And this is a wonderful opportunity for our students to get direct one-on-one interaction with the professor, work on a project over the summer for 8 weeks or so, and really get to know what it's like to do academic research and to really gain experience, hands-on experience of what it's like. Something like that is once again open to anyone. No, you do not have to declare a major for that. Um, One thing to think about also is for studying abroad, the application for that starts next year in the fall of their sophomore year. So once again, possibly you may have to start taking foreign language, maybe this year or next year to kind of get ready for that. Once again, though, you do not have to have a certain major to be accepted to study abroad or to be able to go to a certain country, for example. Um, there's also something called the College Scholars Program. And this is, once again, this is for students who are really excited about doing some sort of independent work. And the College Scholars Program is open to anyone starting their sophomore year. So once again, I encourage you and your student to talk about these opportunities that Holy Cross is offering, and think of them as a way to enhance their learning outside the classroom. There's a lot of learning going on that's outside departments, we want you and your student to know and talk about it so that when it's next year, when it comes time to actually apply or not apply, that you are making a decision with the full knowledge of what's available and what you have to do about that. So.
Yeah, I can jump in a little bit. I see some questions here about, how do students, you all are doing your homework in here on the webinar, but how do our students get this information? And so there are many different ways. What I would definitely, if you're trying to encourage your student to do anything this semester, perhaps asking and encouraging them to actually do an in-person visit to some of these offices and programs that they're interested in. So, we live in a digital age, we live in a virtual age, and you can get a lot of information off the websites, off of some of our internal websites, but there also are always going to be things that an in-person conversation is going to help your student understand and be aware of that they might not get off the website. And every student is individual and has a different scenario. So coming in and talking to a person who has experience in the role is going to be very fruitful for many different ways. So that was something that I would say, get off the website and get into an office and make an appointment, talk to people, as many people as you can if you're interested in a particular thing. And what are those offices? Study abroad, the community-based learning office, the the Center for Career Development, the Class Dean. Tom might not want me sending more people his way, but he's a wonderful resource for all of the first year students. Going to talk to the chaplain's office again. All of these different offices we're here to have these conversations with your students, and we love doing it. That's why we teach at Holy Cross. So encourage them to come and get offline and come in person to have those conversations. And a lot of times that can also help mitigate some of this anxiety, and at the very least normalize the fact that everybody's nervous about this right now. They're not the only ones going through this. And so that can sometimes be helpful for figuring out what the next step is. And then I'll just jump on one last question around language, again, putting my Spanish department hat back on. So if a student wants to go to a non-English speaking country, it kind of depends on the program. So there are some programs in Italy, for example, that are not Italian language programs in the sense that you don't need to have previous background in the language, but you would take the language abroad, some kind of a conversational language. But then most of the other non-English language sites require some degree of proficiency before the students go abroad because they're taking classes at an institution with local students. So they need to know, they need to be able to defend themselves linguistically if they're going to be put in that situation. I think Gabby wanted to jump in maybe there.
Yeah, I saw a question about what kinds of shadowing opportunities exist. And so I thought that was a good time to piggyback off of what Bridget was saying and make another plug for the Center for Career Development. We have excellent career counselors there. We even have, dedicated counselors who work with STEM students and pre-health students. They have set up this wonderful network called the HC Network of alumni and professionals who are willing to give their time. And so usually a stop at the Center for Career Development will end with your career counselor walking you through what the HC network is, how to look for opportunities. You can filter by location, you can filter by industry. So it's kind of like the way we deal with so many of our digital tools nowadays. You would say, I'm looking for healthcare in the Boston area and I'm looking for shadowing opportunities. And then all these names pop up. And that's how a lot of our students find their shadowing opportunities, in that maybe in their over breaks, over weekends, or over the summer after their first year to try to work on that discernment process.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you, Gabby and Bridget, for those very important details, because I know a lot of students are thinking about what they're going to do this summer already, and they're starting to think about plans and work, or possibly get an internship or something like that. So yeah, the Career Development Office is a great place where people can connect with the database that they have, the alumni database that they have. I mean, Holy Cross has an amazing alums who are so happy to talk to students, and so it's a resource that should be tapped as often as possible. I just wanted to say something about there was someone question about their son was not able to declare major or declare two majors or something like that. Occasionally, I have seen students that were denied because there were some requirements that they didn't meet. So, for example, like economics, you cannot declare economics until you've taken an economics course, for example. So there are some technicalities, sometimes for that will prevent a student from declaring a major. But once again, okay, so you can't declare a major right now, and so then in the fall semester, we'll take care of those requirements. And once again, the major will still be there waiting for you. And also if a student ever were to think about declaring a minor, that's definitely a possibility. Typically a minor is 6 courses in a certain area that can be declared right now, although no one has completed a minor yet. But if that's something that they are thinking about, that's all they have to know is that yes, when they complete 6 courses in a department in something, they'll be eligible to earn a minor. So once again, there are no technical hurdles or anything like that, and there are definitely no limits on how many minors are given out or how many majors are given out, anything like that.
If I can ask a clarifying question on that, do they have to formally declare that they want to achieve a minor, or is the fact that they may have accumulated the appropriate amount of courses sufficient to flag something to say, yeah, you've earned this minor?
Yeah, the students will have to declare that they are going to minor in something. And once their courses are satisfied, the minor will be granted. So they do have to actively declare, just as they have to actively declare a major as well.
If I could just piggyback off of that again, in terms of completing courses for the tracks, for example, I see some questions here about the pre-law track. I'm sure folks are wondering about, the pre-med or pre-dental track. So when you're on a track, right, it depends what you're on the track for. For pre-law, there is no set curriculum for the pre-law track, right? So you would just complete your major, and then you would complete the requirements for law school, and you would take the required entrance exams, etc. Obviously, you would work with like our pre-law advisor, and you would figure out what schools you should apply to, what kinds of experiences are valuable, and things like that. But it's not a matter of taking courses. For pre-med, pre-dental, pre-nursing, pre-PA, any kind of health professions track, this does not appear on your transcript, but it is a significant undertaking of extra courses that you have to take. So you can major in whatever you want. And then in addition to that, you would complete all of the courses required for your specific program. And then once you've achieved all of those courses and once you've completed them, again, it doesn't appear on your transcript, but I'd like to remind students that they are doing this extra thing and to be careful picking up a double major or a major and a minor in addition to the pre-med track, because the pre-med track is already a thing, right? The pre-nursing track is already a thing. You're already doing something extra. I would rather see you focus and select quality over quantity.
Yeah,
I
I would
can.
definitely agree
Oh,
with that too. Oh, sorry. I mean, it's not about, how many majors and minors you can tack onto your transcript. I think that's definitely not the right approach. It's more about, once you find your passion and once you start digging into that area, I think yeah, you kind of have the reward will come to you instead of you having to go and tack on things onto your transcript. So,
Yeah, I'll just tell a quick anecdote about a student of mine. She was on the pre-professional track and a Spanish major, and went abroad to Argentina. And she said that when she went to have her interview for her med school interview, that all the questions were about her experience teaching violin to underserved children in Buenos Aires, and how she did that in Spanish and through music. Nothing about STEM or science. And she was astounded that that's how the interview went. And in hindsight, she said, of course, because that made me stand out. That made me stand apart from all the other applicants for the position. So, I think that's important again to remind our students that part of what they're doing is building a story about who they are, what's important to them, and while they can always, go ahead and be a professional, the storytelling part of this and their experiences and what drives them and what's important to them in life are the things that are going to make them compelling interviewees in any future employer's interview situation. So it's sometimes hard for students and families to think about it that way, but I think it's helpful to again take a little bit of this stress and anxiety out of the process.
Bridget, thank you so much for that sentiment. And that actually, for me, brings me to a couple questions that have come in that connect back to some of students' more unique experiences or differential experiences, whether they be, we've had some come in about students who are in the NROTC program or student athletes, and how you advise or would advise families to help support their students in navigating those demanding schedules with their course selections or major navigation. Because there's been a few questions, again, a variety of kinds of questions, but I think if I could sum that up, is families looking for advice on how to support their students in navigating the demanding schedules of those high impact experiences with their coursework, and how faculty work with them, and again, the advice you'd offer those students and families. You
well,
or
I can
others.
say,
Sorry.
I mean, I can say that I've had plenty of student athletes, for example, in my classes, um, and student athletes are extremely busy. It's a full-time job almost for them, and they have their teammates that are telling them in one year, like, "Oh, you should take that. Don't take that. And major in something like this because that's what I'm doing." But once again, I think it's really important for the student to really think about what it is that they are passionate about. And 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 uh, and there are plenty of resources for student athletes, um, for academic resources for student athletes. And so once again, that I would encourage them to just find their passion. And I've had football players who were physics students. So that's my department in the physics. And it was extremely rare. And I think he was kind of feeling pressured from his teammates that you shouldn't be doing that because that's too hard or that takes too much time. But he loved it, and he succeeded in doing well both academically and on his team. So I think once again, passion, right? If you can find that, I think students will find success in all aspects.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in if I have time to add on to Tom's comments. I think that for me, student athletes have some of the best time management I've ever seen in first year students because they have so much going on and they know they've got their grid ready, I'm sure, and their spreadsheet. And one thing that I talk to student athletes about quite often is self-advocacy. So they're in a situation where they have a coach who's an authority figure, and then they have professors who also are authority figures. And they have parents and family members who also are authority figures. And in this mix, they have to figure out who they're going to be as adults. And sometimes those are the hardest conversations that they're ever going to have in their life up until this point, because they are going to have to tell three very important people in their lives that they don't want to do one of those things or that they can't do that right now. And that's a really hard conversation. And some of the best growth that they're going to have is having to figure out how to advocate for my professor's asking me to do this, my coach is asking me to do this, and my family wants something different. And in that, hopefully, they can find their own voice. But any way that you can help support them in having those hard conversations and not kind of running away from them or thinking that they're not up for that challenge, I think is enormously helpful.
Wow. Thank you all so much for the wonderful advice and information this evening. I'm looking at the clock and we are out of time. I recognize we're getting a few more questions in this evening. And so I just want to name and identify the folks here on this call are still here as resources and supports. I want to thank our panelists for sharing their perspective this evening. I continue to be amazed myself as someone who's been at the college for a number of years when I'm on these panels or in these webinars, the wealth of information I feel like I'm receiving. So I can only imagine how our families feel. So thank you all so much for sharing your time and your knowledge. And support to families as they're trying to help their students navigate these difficult years, or the challenges that they may face. And moving forward, if folks continue to have questions, I think the best points of contact so that we can help direct your questions appropriately would be my office, the Office of Parent and Family Engagement at families@holycross.edu, or to Class Dean Tom Narita, if you don't mind, Class Dean 2029, right? 2020, yeah, Class Dean 2029. And between those two email accounts, we can help to address or share out your questions so that they can best be addressed for you and for your students. Thank you again so much, panelists, and for families for your time this evening. We hope you have a great rest of your evening, and we look forward to seeing you on future From the Hill to You webinars. There will be one coming in March on the college's efforts around educating students on AI technology, so please be on the lookout for more information about that. Otherwise, have a great rest of your evening.